All right, so get this. We're diving into some pretty wild ideas today about, like, the power of thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we've got this source material we're looking at, and it claims to, like, unlock the secrets of this thing called the law of attraction. You
Okay.
heard of that?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
Basically, the idea is that, your thoughts can, like, magnetically attract stuff into your life, like experiences and stuff.
It's definitely an interesting concept.
So kind of like gravity, but for our thoughts.
Well, this source goes really deep into this idea that there are like psychological laws that basically govern our reality, much like the laws of physics, they say.
So if I, like, think really hard about winning the lottery, does that mean a winning ticket is just going to, like, magically appear in my pocket?
Well, no, not exactly. This source is really big on this idea of like genuine belief. It's not just about like random thoughts that pop into your head.
Yeah.
It's about like cultivating this deep, unshakable conviction that what you want is like already yours.
Hmm. So I need to, like, convince myself that I'm already a millionaire, even if right now I'm, like, more wading through a pile of bills than, swimming in cash.
That's basically the gist of it, yeah. They
Hmm.
call it thought manifestation, or actually it's made in the original text. But basically the idea is that your thoughts have this like attracting force that kind of pulls your desired reality toward you.
Hold on a sec. So if I'm, like, constantly stressing about missing my flight, am I, like, actually making it more likely that I will miss it?
Well, that's where things get kind of interesting. The source actually warns against like negative thoughts. They say that those negative thoughts can actually attract undesirable outcomes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so they're like really big on replacing those negative thoughts with positive affirmations. That way you're like redirecting that attracting force, so to speak.
Gotcha. So it's like a cosmic game of tug of war. Positive and negative thoughts, battling it out.
You could say that, yeah. The key, according to this source, is to like consciously direct that attracting force toward the reality that you want. And to do that, you've got to master your thoughts and beliefs.
Okay, so, like, that makes sense, but it also sounds a bit like, you know, wishful thinking. I mean, we've all wished for things that haven't just magically appeared,
Right.
right?
Right. Well, that's where the source brings in this other concept, which is pretty fascinating. It's the idea of like attracts like, which they refer to as ita.
Okay.
And what they're suggesting is that your surroundings and the people you spend time with, they can really influence your reality. You basically become more like those you're around.
Oh, so if I want to be a millionaire, I just got to hang out with millionaires. Is that the secret formula?
Well, it's not quite as simple as that.
Yeah.
While the source highlights the power of your environment, it also stresses the importance of like making conscious choices and putting in the effort. It's not just going to happen through osmosis or something.
Okay. So just like lounging on my couch and daydreaming about winning the lottery, that's not going to magically make it happen, right? So environment matters, but so does action. But what about those people who are already successful and happy? Do they even need this law of attraction thing?
It's interesting. The source actually claims that successful people, whether they know it or not, they're already using the law of attraction. They give examples like Shakespeare, Newton, Einstein, even Buddha.
Wait, Buddha, that seems like a stretch.
I know, right? But what they argue is that while we can't know for sure about Buddha himself, a lot of Buddhist teachings, with their emphasis on the power of thoughts and intentions to shape reality, well, it seems to line up with the principles of the law of attraction.
Oh, interesting. So it's like this law is kind of like a cosmic operating system running in the background all the time, whether we know it or not.
Hmm.
And if we can just figure out how to use it, then we can achieve all our dreams, become the best versions of ourselves. And, oh, wait, what was that about a magic word?
Ah, yes. The magic word of the law of attraction is gratitude. Gratitude.
Yeah. This source is really big on the idea that expressing gratitude is like the key to amplifying that attracting force
Mm.
and bringing even more positive experiences into your life.
Hmm. So if I just say thank you enough, that can change my reality. I'm starting to feel like we're like heading into fairy tale territory here.
It does sound a little, I don't know, too good to be true.
Yeah, a little bit.
But the source is saying that gratitude, it kind of puts you in this positive mental state that it aligns you with, like, abundance and positivity.
Okay.
It's more about, shifting your focus from what you don't have
Oh.
to what you already do have.
So instead of like being bummed about my empty wallet, I should be, grateful for my overflowing inbox.
Well, I'm not sure I'd recommend focusing on your inbox exactly.
Right.
I think it's more about those genuine sources of joy,
Okay.
and abundance in your life, no matter how small they may seem.
Right.
It's more about recognizing and appreciating the good stuff you've already got. I think I get it, but like, how do you actually put this law into practice? Do I need to light some incense and start chanting affirmations in front of the mirror?
Not necessarily. Actually, the source gets surprisingly specific.
Oh,
It gives this 3-step process for putting the law of attraction into action, although I will say each step comes with its own, well, let's call them quirks.
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 Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. What are the steps?
Okay, so the first step is defining your goal.
Okay,
And they're really clear that it can't be some wishy-washy thing.
right.
Like, I want to be rich and famous, that's not going to cut it.
So I want to be rich and famous doesn't cut it.
Nope.
Okay.
It has to be something concrete, something specific, something you actually believe you can achieve.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think so.
Something like, I'm going to have X amount of dollars in my bank account by this date, or, I don't know, I'm going to star in a blockbuster movie with, my favorite celebrity, that kind of thing.
Oh,
You see what I mean?
Yeah. So like a specific goal that I actually believe is achievable.
Exactly. They say clarity and conviction are super important.
Okay.
And here's where it gets interesting. They're saying you got to believe you've already achieved the goal, even if, your current reality suggests otherwise.
Wait, so I'm supposed to just pretend I'm already living the dream lives, even if, right now things are a little less than glamorous. Is this cosmic faking it till you make it?
Kind of, yeah. They compare it to, a lottery winner, right?
Okay.
Before they've even scratched the ticket. They have that belief.
Right.
It's about having that unshakable faith that what you want, it's already yours.
Okay, but how do you, convince yourself of something that isn't actually true yet? Isn't that kind of, I don't know, delusional?
They talk about that. They suggest that any difficulty you're having in believing is probably because of, underlying self-doubt or limiting beliefs
Oh, okay.
that need to be, uprooted.
So if I'm thinking, yeah, right, I'm ever going to be able to afford that beachfront mansion, I'm basically, sabotaging my chances of ever actually having that mansion.
According to the source, that's exactly it. They're saying you have to get rid of any doubt or disbelief if you want to manifest something.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is getting pretty deep.
Hmm.
So let's say I manage to convince myself I'm living the high life. What's the next step in this cosmic recipe for success?
The second step.
Yeah.
It's all about, maintaining that belief. You got to nurture it,
All right.
and let it kind of permeate your thoughts and your actions.
So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just visualize my dream life for 5 minutes a day and then call it good.
You got it.
Right.
They're, really warning against impatience.
Right.
And they urge people to just, trust the process. They say the universe is working behind the scenes,
Okay.
orchestrating events and circumstances to make things line up with your beliefs.
How long do you have to wait? And what if doubt creeps in while you're waiting? Do you have to start the whole process over?
They do talk about doubt. It's inevitable, right? They compare doubts to weeds in a garden. You got to pluck them out before they can take root
Okay.
and choke out your belief.
So all those tools we always hear about, like positive affirmations, gratitude journaling, surrounding yourself with positive people, that's mental weed killer.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
The source is all about actively cultivating a positive mindset. You got to support your belief and ward off those doubts.
Okay. So we've got unwavering belief, mental gardening. What's the final step in this 3-part cosmic plan?
These are things get a little, I don't know.
Tricky.
Tricky, yeah. They say the third step is basically to just receive your outcome.
Right.
But there's a catch.
Oh boy, I have a feeling I know what's coming.
Oh, okay.
Do I need to sell all my possessions and join some secluded commune in the mountains?
Not quite that extreme. But the catch is you're not supposed to actively chase after your goal.
Yeah.
You're supposed to let it come to you.
Wait, what? So I'm supposed to just sit back, relax, and wait for the universe to magically deliver my dream job, my soulmate, a winning lottery ticket, all on a silver platter? That seems, I don't know, kind of counterintuitive.
It does, right? I mean, it goes against everything we know about setting goals and taking action.
Right.
But their argument is that if you try to force or manipulate the outcome, you're actually going to mess up the whole process.
So no more sending out resumes, going on dates, actually putting in any effort. That seems a little, I don't know, passive, don't you think? What if the universe is busy delivering silver platters to everyone else?
It is a very unique approach. But they're saying that if you take action from a place of, like, need or desperation, it's just going to backfire.
Well,
You're just going
okay.
to
Oh.
attract more need and desperation.
So I just got to maintain that like Zen-like state of already having what I want, even if like, my bank account, my relationship status, and my complete lack of a winning lottery ticket suggest otherwise.
Yeah, pretty much.
How?
They're saying that when you really believe you've already reached your goal, you kind of give off this energy that attracts the right people, the right opportunities,
Wait.
all the right circumstances just fall into place.
Okay, I have to say, this whole sit back and let the universe handle it thing,
Yeah.
it makes me a little uneasy. I'm like a doer. I like to take charge and make things happen, but I'm willing to keep an open mind. What does the source say about like how you balance that passive approach with, the need to actually take action?
That's a great question. And they do acknowledge that sometimes you do need to take action,
Right.
but they say the actions you take should come from a place of like alignment with your desired outcome,
Okay.
not from a place of like desperation or force.
So it's not about frantically chasing after my goals. It's more about taking like inspired action.
Exactly.
That feels right. That feels good. That feels aligned with the reality I'm trying to create.
Exactly. They're arguing that when you're truly in sync with your desired outcome, the right actions will kind of just flow naturally.
Oh, okay.
And you'll just find yourself drawn to these opportunities that support your vision.
That makes a lot more sense than like sitting on my couch, visualizing a giant check coming in the mail, and then just waiting for the doorbell to ring. So it's about finding that balance between belief and action,
Mm-hmm.
where you're not forcing things, but you're also not just like passively waiting for the universe to, work its magic.
You got it. It's all about that delicate balance between like surrender and intention.
Wow. This is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know, self-help meets spirituality meets. I'm not even sure what to call it.
Right. Yeah.
But before we get too lost in like the theory of it all, let's talk about some real world applications.
Okay.
How are people actually using these concepts in their lives?
That's a great point. The source does give some pretty interesting examples, although it's worth mentioning that these are like anecdotal accounts, not scientific evidence.
Right. Right.
They share stories about people who say they've used the law of attraction to get everything from like dream jobs to romantic partners to like miraculous healings.
Spill the tea. Tell me about these like manifestation success stories. I'm ready for some inspiration.
Okay, so there's this one story about a struggling artist,
Okay.
and she was using visualization and positive affirmations to try to like land a major gallery exhibition. She spent months like vividly imagining herself in the gallery,
Okay.
surrounded by people who loved her work, her artwork, getting all this praise, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And supposedly, through sheer belief and visualization, she made it happen.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. But was it really just visualization? Or did she, actually create the artwork and like contact some galleries? It seems like action probably played a role too, right?
You're right, action is almost always part of it.
Right.
But what the source is saying is that the energy behind the action, that's what makes the difference. When you're acting from a place of like alignment with your desires, your actions become more effective.
Oh, interesting.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They attract the desired outcome more easily.
So it's not just about what you do, it's about the energy and intention you bring to those actions.
That's it. They say that when your actions are aligned with your beliefs, you become a magnet for opportunities that support your vision.
That makes sense. But what about those times when like things just don't go our way? Does the source ever address, the possibility of failure or setbacks?
That's a really good question. And they do acknowledge that not everything we want is going to manifest in the way we expect or like on the timeline we want it to. They say that sometimes these failures, they're actually like detours
Oh, okay.
that lead us to something better.
So it's like those times when you miss your flight, but then you end up meeting the love of your life at the airport. Cosmic twist of fate.
Exactly. They're all about trusting the process.
Right.
Even when things don't go according to plan,
Right.
that's crucial for letting the law of attraction work.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
But I still have this nagging question. If our thoughts are so powerful, how do we explain all the, suffering and injustice in the world? Are they saying that people are like attracting these bad things into their lives?
That is a really complex and sensitive issue.
Yeah,
And the source does mention the role of free will,
right.
and the fact that we can't always control everything that happens around us. They suggest that while we might not be able to control everything that happens to us, we can control how we react to those things.
Okay.
We can choose to focus on the positive, even when things are tough.
So it's not about blaming people for their problems. It's more about giving them the power to choose their perspective,
Right.
to create a more positive reality, even when things are difficult.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even in the darkest times, we still have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions.
Mm.
And those choices, they can really shape our experience of reality.
This is all really thought-provoking, but I gotta be honest, I'm still a bit skeptical. It's hard to reconcile this idea of like a thought-powered universe with, the reality of pain, suffering,
Right.
and just plain bad luck.
I totally get your skepticism. It's important to be critical,
Right.
and not just blindly accept everything you hear. The source itself actually encourages people to question, to explore, and to come to their own conclusions.
Okay, that's good. So where do we go from here? If we're not just like passive recipients of our thoughts, how do we actually use this alleged power for good?
That's a question we're going to dig into a lot more in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, perfect.
We're going to look at the practical tips from the source,
Okay.
for how to actually apply the law of attraction,
Right.
from like mastering your thoughts to cultivating gratitude to taking that aligned action.
This is getting really interesting. We're about to find out how to put this law of attraction stuff into action and see if there's anything we can actually use in our own lives. Stay tuned. Okay, so we've explored all the theory behind the law of attraction, but I'm ready to get practical. What does this source actually say we should do to, like, harness this thought power?
Well, this is where things get, real. And the source actually has a lot of advice, although, you can decide how practical it really is.
All right, lay it on me. I'm ready to become a master manifester.
So one thing they emphasize is training your mind to like instantly shift away from negative thoughts.
Okay.
It's almost like, mental agility. You're redirecting your attention to more positive and empowering thoughts.
And instead of, like, going down a rabbit hole of despair when I miss the bus, I should just imagine, I don't know, a chauffeured limo pulling up to take me where I need to go.
Well, maybe not a limo, but the idea is to catch those negative thought patterns early on
Right.
and then consciously choose like a better perspective.
Okay, so it's like mental jujitsu.
Yeah.
You deflect the negativity and then counter with positivity. I like it. What else do they suggest?
They also recommend setting realistic goals. They say that aiming too high too quickly can lead to, discouragement.
Right.
And that can just like undermine the whole process.
So baby steps are better than giant leaps. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a perfectly manifested reality.
Exactly. Start small, build some momentum,
Right.
and, strengthen your belief in the process. Once you've like manifested a few parking spots and free coffees, then you can move on to those bigger dreams.
Speaking of dreams, they also talk about the importance of visualization, right?
Oh, absolutely. Visualizing your desired outcome as vividly and emotionally as you can.
Mhm.
The more detail, the more emotion you put into it, the stronger that attracting force becomes.
So if I'm picturing that beachfront mansion, I shouldn't just see the ocean view. I need to, like, feel the sand between my toes, smell the salty air, hear the waves crashing.
Exactly. You want to engage all your senses to make it feel as real as possible.
Wow.
The more real it feels, the more readily it will manifest in your, physical reality.
Okay, so mental jujitsu, baby steps, sensory-rich visualizations. It's a lot to keep track of. Is there
Mhm.
anything else I need to know before I, like, set off on my manifestation journey?
Well, the last thing the source emphasizes is gratitude.
Okay.
And not just as a way to like boost your attracting force, it's also about cultivating a more fulfilling life, whether you achieve those specific goals or not.
So even if I don't end up winning the lottery or becoming a famous movie star, just like focusing on what I'm grateful for, that can still make me happier overall.
That's the idea. Gratitude helps you shift from a mindset of lack to a mindset of abundance.
Right.
You start appreciating the good things you already have, and that can attract even more good things into your life.
I like that. It's a bit more grounded and realistic than just like waiting for the universe to magically deliver everything you want. Gratitude is something we can all work on no matter what we believe about, the universe.
Exactly. And maybe that's the most important thing we can take away from all of this. Whether or not you believe in the law of attraction, having a grateful heart and a positive mindset, that can definitely make your life better.
Well said. It seems like the law of attraction is more of a, thought-provoking philosophy than a set of rules. It's full of interesting possibilities, but it also needs a dose of skepticism, and you definitely have to put in the work.
I agree. At the end of the day, it's up to each person to decide what resonates with them and how they want to use these ideas in their own life.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the power of thoughts, to the magic of gratitude, to the importance of taking action. It's a fascinating topic, full of inspiration, but also room for misunderstanding.
Definitely. And as always, we encourage you to keep learning, exploring, and forming your own opinions.
And maybe try visualizing a free coffee appearing on your desk. You never know, it could work. Until next time, stay curious and keep those hearts grateful.